in Chattanooga and beyond. I'm getting mailers in my box at the bottom of my driveway on the hilltop. There's Mark Gravitt, Register of Deeds. There's Randy Fairbanks. I'm showing you my viewer here on YouTube. Also, Randy Fairbanks has a nice card. Catherine K. White for Circuit Court Judge. And I've had one. I don't have the one from Judge Hedrick, the incumbent in Circuit Court, with me. Mark Gravitt is the right choice here. And there's a nice picture of him on the front. Proven leader, it says, successful businessman, trusted, conservative, and military veteran. And they're all the same size. They're all the same heaviness. Nice card stock. Of course, they're in full color. And there's usually kind of an impact picture on the front. And then on the back, you've got the details. There's a kind of formula that these cards follow. They're big enough to matter. They really stand out in your mail pile. You have your Wall Street Journal coming, and then these stick out from any other mail you might have. You might say the junk mail, right? They stand apart from the junk mail. The seventh letter you've gotten this week from Judicial Watch, right? You get these packages from Judicial Watch. But this seems to spend most of its money on email, not email, but snail mail fundraising. And there you are, David Toulis here, looking at the future, trying to see how we can do better as a people. There's a story in. Yeah, well, I was mentioning. Okay, you want to hear what's going on with the sheriff's deputy. Judy Walton has done a very good job at the Chattanooga Times-Free Press in covering Sheriff Watson and Tennille Watson, his wife, and the story is about her bond business, and she had 32% of the bonding business out of Sessions and Criminal Court in Bradley County, and then very quickly went up to 35%. And Judy says that Tennille has written $1.3 million in bonds, and though she's just a rookie, she's accused by unnamed members of her clan, which is to say the bond business, of poaching, and that she was using for some time what the county attorney finally said was an illegal hold on prisoners. In other words, prisoners held by Tennille until she can get there to write the piece of paper that is the bond. A bond is not a check, right? Now here, if you're arrested in Bradley County, and I suspect in Helena County, if you're arrested and you want to bond out, you have to write a check. But the bond companies don't. I think they don't have to write a check because somehow they're held. Their paper is held in good faith. Their promises to pay are held is virtual guarantees of payment, right? If a bonding company like the one Tennille Watson runs says, we're going to give you this form, that is the bond, that's enough. You don't have to have, if you're the judge, you don't have to have a check from Tennille Watson. You don't have to have an actual payment. You actually just have the promise to pay, the guarantee of payment. And so Tennille was using holds for a while until she could get there to the jail to write the bond and receive the check. Now, see, if there's a check involved in that business, it's from the victim, the man in the prison or the woman in, not the prison, but in the jail, who pays the fee. Or so if it's a $1,000 bond and the fee is 25% or 20%, then it's $200 that is pure profit from Tennille Watson or any of the other bondsmen. There's the Bagenstos family that has bonding services in I don't know 50 of the state's 94 counties, and other competitors for that business. And what they do is they follow the courts, and they follow arrest patterns, and people who are entered into the judicial industrial complex in that county or this, they become a source of revenue. They become part of the profit of that business. So it is like many other businesses in our country, it is fractionally reserved and leveraged. There's not actual payment made by the bonding company. There's not cash inflow to the county for the whole amount. It's all done fractionally, and probably again, I'm waiting for Judy Walton to write the report on this. Other journalists in other cities have written about their situations in that field. But because the bonds are fractionally accepted and accepted on promise to pay and not actual payment, you probably have higher bonds than are really necessary. A bond, after all, is not buying. The purpose. We're forgetting what the purpose is. The purpose of the bond is to guarantee the appearance in court. That's all it is. And we have across Tennessee and across the country a bond slavery, a form of slavery that was covered recently in the New York Times about how bond agents and bondsmen are effectively well, they have huge power over their marks, their customers, if you will, or we could even call them their victims in that industry. That would be the people who are in jail, who want to get out, but who don't have the means to write a check. And so they get the bonding company to come in with its good reputation and say, okay, well, the bonding company will stand instead of this prisoner, and we guarantee his appearance in court. But we're not going to have to write you a check, Judge. We're just going to tell you that we'll guarantee him. Okay, we're going to guarantee him. So that bonding person turns away from that high bench where the judge in his black cloak sits, turns to the prisoner and says, "Okay, now write me a check for 20%." And that check, of course, is written, or the cash proceeds given to the bondsman, collected from aunts and uncles and employers and friends and all kinds of people who are leaned upon to obtain the cash. And that money is not ever returned, of course. It is the profit of Tenniel Watson, the bondsman. And so these people make their living, and they have huge power over their so-called customers. The ones they're bailing out and securing the future arrival of at the court for the hearings. The hold system, according to Judy, ended March 7th in a meeting, and from attorney Crystal Freiberg, the county attorney in Bradley, who said, well, there's no authority by anybody in the jail to hold anybody. If there's a bond to be written or given, the first come, first serve. That's how we're going to run things here. And that system ended just about 35, 40 days ago, perhaps partly because of coverage in press organs such as the Times Free Press. This is David Toulis, and we strongly suggest you adhere to the digital media doctrine of Jamichael Parks. He is the truck driver in Bradley County, 33 years old. He lives actually in Meigs County, but his note in the news the past week has been to be the filming while black subject. Right, he is a subject of a deputy, Dale Liner, who used profanity in holding him without probable cause and in violating his constitutionally guaranteed, God-given, unalienable, and inherent rights to record a public servant in a public place. There is no expectation of privacy of any cop, any deputy in public, and one can film at a distance. There's no reason that a cop says, well, you're interfering. Well, you're not interfering if you're not in the process, if you're not in the mix of people standing around a seized car and the victims therein trying to get out, right? If you're not in the mix with those people, but you're standing on the outside, there cannot conceivably be any way that interferes. And cops don't like to be photographed. And yet you, my listener, should celebrate with Jamichael Parks the idea that, well, you have a right to photograph public activity of your taxpayer-funded public servants, whether they be deputies or municipal corporation police officers. I'm concerned about the abuse of the Tennessee driver's license statute, and am pursuing this morning with the Sheriff's Department an information request about an arrest whose details are, to me, still a little sketchy, and that is to say the arrest of Rudy Soto Rodriguez, and that occurred a couple of weeks ago now And it appears that since the arresting agency was Hamilton County Sheriff's Office, that my administrative notice is not yet finished in its digestion. The notice, which is a 20-page legal review of all the statutes that apply to traffic stops, makes it very clear that the authority under the transportation statute is upon people only involved in transportation. And Matt Lee, the PIO of the department, promised me a couple of weeks ago that he would, he would have an answer. It seems like the answer is still in gestation because the DeSoto arrest came well after the March 1st delivery of that notice to Sheriff Hammond. That was in a personal meeting that I had with the sheriff. And I said, Sheriff Hammond, he refused to answer any questions about his practice enforcing the transportation statute. He refused to answer any questions, saying he would have to consult with his traffic division and the Tennessee Department of Safety and Homeland Security before he could give me an answer. So I sent a week later by email to Matt Lee, the PIO, 7 questions, as well as an explainer letter about the notice, because the notice, it doesn't make any arguments. It just lays out all the law. And the conclusion, though, that one can make from that, or should make from that review of Title 55 in the Tennessee Code, and also Title 65, which is about the transportation system, and also Title 49 of the U.S. Code, which is the transportation code from the federal government, is this, that those laws apply to people involved in transportation. And Soto Rodriguez was not involved in transportation the morning he was arrested. He was arrested on his way to work, according to his niece, Ramona, who called me the other day. He's on his way to work. And so when you're on your way to work and you're not carrying people or goods for hire, you're not involved in transportation. It's just that simple. And so what we want to look at is the following, and that would be the reduction of the intake flow of human beings into the jail. That is something that, as a Christian, I'm very concerned about. As a Christian man, I'm concerned that there is an abuse of the commoner and the poor man and the stranger in Hamilton County. And it's done with your leave, with the leave of you, my listener, who thinks that this doesn't matter. You think that this doesn't apply to you. You think that somehow, though you may be a Christian, that, well, this is really just kind of not for me to think about, because we know that government is neutral, right? Government is a neutral area. And God does not care about government. He doesn't care about government. And his law doesn't really touch on the affairs of government. It's just so complicated. Who really knows about all these rules and laws? And it's just complicated. Who's to say? Who's to say what's right and wrong when government's involved? Well, I'm here to tell you, my listener, that God cares about government. And in fact, the first 5 books of the scriptures are about government. It's all about public policy. It's about the use of judges, the use of laws, what crimes are, what constitute crimes. And many of the crimes that are described in the first 5 books of the Bible are not among those peculiar to the state of Israel, right? They're not peculiar to the nation state confederation of the 12 tribes. In those laws, which of course the sundry laws mentioned in the Westminster Catechism, which have passed with the passing of that people in that state. These are laws that apply today. For example, the mens rea law, the mens rea requirement that requires every crime to have an intent element in it. In other words, if someone's accused of a crime, there has to be the element of intent that's part of it, or there's no crime. There has to be intent, or it's just a mishap or an accident. 800-8949, 800-8949. David Toulis were brought to you by yournews.com. That's yournews.com. David Toulis here for analysis of local economy and your call on the David Toulis Show. Sex sells, and of course, fear sells the state. And I want to look just for a second at Chattanooga.com this morning's post about latest Hamilton County jail bookings. 56 people were booked on Sunday. 56 people lost their liberty, and they're having been apprehended by sheriff's deputies or East Ridge Police or Chattanooga Police. And of them, 1 in 5 got there through the transportation statute. And some of these charges in the new round of state victims, as I'll call them, They are not criminal at all. Now, there are people who are criminals or alleged criminals, said to be criminals. They're involved, for example, in public intoxication. A man named George David Condra, for example, is accused of assault, which of course is a common law crime. There's another party, James Clarence Edwards from Eli Road in Hickson. He's accused and held at age 27 of theft of property. These are crimes. And others are, another one is charged with criminal trespass, criminal impersonation. This is a crime also. Here's one from Taran Jarrell Gilbert, assault on police. Now, of course, he may have just raised his hand and touched the officer. That's called an assault. You could be tased and handcuffed, and that's not assault. Okay, they can do you bad, but you just barely touch the cop's sleeve with your upraised arm, and that's an assault. So it's hard to say just based on the arrest record what happened in the Taran Jarrell Gilbert case. But there's a case here of vandalism under $1,000. So you see there are real offenses here. I'm not saying that just because someone shows up in the arrest report that he's a state victim. I'm not saying that, right? Some of these people rightly should be held to account and brought to bar, brought to the judge for disposition of the accusations against them, because these are common law crimes. But 800-8949, 800-8949 is my number. But 11 of these people got here. 1 in 5 of the 56, 1 in 5 got here from the transportation statute. If we're concerned about jail crowding in Bradley County and the hellhole that Sheriff Eric Watson runs, he runs a hellhole, according to reports in the Chattanooga Times-Free Press. If we're going to cut the inflow, we need to reduce the abuse, the overly broad enforcement of Title 55. And this is a way, if this law were properly enforced, the mayor of Chattanooga, Andy Burke, could claim that we have a sanctuary city from Title 55. This is an argument which would do very well among Democratic supporters of Mayor Andy Burke, and it would do very well, and as I have suggested, make him a national figure on the constitutional libertarian side as well, among the conservatives. Why? Because when he declares that Chattanooga is a sanctuary from Title 55 and the misenforcement of that title, he's not doing anything bold, really. He's just being conservative, and he's saying we're not going to enforce incorrectly and over broadly the transportation statute. We're not going to enforce it against people such as Zachariah Nathaniel Bell, who's driving on revoked, suspended, or canceled. Also violating the Financial Responsibility Act and the Registration and Driving and Registered Vehicle Act. So this man, Zachary Nathaniel Bell, is being accused of being a criminal because he didn't take advantage of a statute that requires for cars to be converted into vehicles and put into the stream of commerce as and registration. That law originally intended to be able to track down stolen vehicles. How is it that a law that is a way of keeping record for cars in the state becomes a criminal sanction against a man such as Zachariah Bell? Another one arrested is Stephanie Chanel Feaster. She's driving on roadways lined for traffic violation, driving under the influence and open container law. Again, that's under Title 55. Tyrone Garth, light law violation. Okay, they got him on a light law, right? He didn't have a tag light on his car. He had a light that didn't work. Okay, and in that traffic stop arrest, he was booked on Sunday. 32 years old, on 1267 Poplar Street. Tyrone Garth is charged with possession of a controlled substance. So you see, the traffic law is used to enforce the drug war. The drug war is fought through the traffic statute. Further on down on the same page, we have number 4, Joel LeBron Green, light law violation. He's from 70 Circle Drive in Rossville. Light law violation. And then, well, guess what? They found out that he didn't have the proper registration of his car as a vehicle, and he was driving on revoked, suspended, or canceled. The next man down is Adrian Lamar Gustus, light law violation. So he was stopped because he had a tag light out or he had a brake light out. And guess what? Whoa, driving on revoked, suspended, or canceled. But if this man, Adrian Lamar Gustus, is not involved in carrying goods or people for hire, it doesn't matter whether his license is revoked. If at that moment, the moment he stopped, he's not involved in a commercial act. If he's acting privately in that car, he can't be, according to Tennessee's Transportation Administrative Notes, he can't be accused of being a driver. Okay, you're a driver only if you are in the act of carrying goods or people for hire. 800-8949, 800-8949. Do you have any questions about that for me? Do you wonder what I'm talking about? Well, I'm talking about something that's about liberty. And you think, well, that doesn't matter to me because I've got a driver's license. It really doesn't matter. These people, look at their faces. They all look like the most common, poorest type of people. And you're right. They are. That's exactly who gets ground up in the judicial industrial complex in Hamilton County and in Bradley County. And these are people who can never get ahead. They can never, ever, ever get ahead. They have fines, they have penalties. They can't make bail. They can't make bond. They don't even have enough to pay the bondsman's fee. The bondsman doesn't have to write a check, but this guy, Adrian Lamar Gustus, he has to write a check, or somebody has to gather cash or checks to pay the bondsman. Stormy Nicole Hatfield, also charged. She's 23, lives on Lamar Avenue. And she failed to maintain her lane, okay? And the cop saw her, and Chattanooga Police Department officer saw her, didn't maintain her lane. Oh, okay, that's probable cause for a crime under Title 55. Not maintaining a lane is not a common law crime. And ordinarily, he would have to have seen her commit a crime to stop her. But here, the threshold for arrest is on the floor, right? There's hardly any threshold at all to stop and arrest someone in the transportation statute. So she was didn't maintain her lane. And guess what? Oh man. Registration, driving in a registered vehicle, driving on revoked, suspended, or canceled, and financial responsibility. So she's violated the three legs of commercial government, though she, Stormy Nicole Hatfield, is not very likely involved in commerce. She's just a private user of the road, doing her business, minding her own business. Then there's Jeremiah David Hicks, driving on revoked. He's 41 years old, arrested by the good cops in East Ridge. And then further on down, there's number 8. And here now we have a man who was, maybe he's weaving a bit on the road. He was charged with possession of controlled substance, driving under the influence, driving on revoked, suspended, or canceled. In other words, he was a free traveling user of the road. But because of the transportation statute, because he doesn't raise a proper defense, and no lawyer is going to tell him what that defense is, he's got that charge in addition to the drug charge. This is David Toulis. It's the common man we need to worry about. The common man, the poor, the immigrant, and the minority. This is David Toulis. Do you care? Do you care?
We'll take a cold start to a mid-April